Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Ichigo awoke his true powers. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, a quick update, the stories, What If Reborn in Naruto World and What If Transmigrated as Harry Potter, are going on hold soon, as we have almost caught up with the author. So once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the next project should be on this channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if becoming a mangaka in One Piece world? What if Dragon Deck user in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal? What if transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader? I will be setting up a poll for this, so please vote in the poll and let me know which two stories you'd like to see next on the channel. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 6, Protectors Training PT-1, Stinging Bee, Twin Blades, The Arts and the Instinct. Oi, woman, can't you give it a break? Ichigo yelled in irritation at the goddess of Flash, who was once again lying naked beside him. After he settled in the house of Kukakushiba, Ichigo quickly found out that her longtime friend Yoruichi Shihoin spent awful lot of time in her house. Whenever Ichigo lied in his bed, he awoke with her next to him. Once again I have to say, such a prude. Yoruichi laughed and covered herself lightly with a blanket. Ichigo sighed and rubbed his eyes. I may be yelling at her, but it seems I'm getting used to this. Say, Yoruichi-san, have you ever been in love? He asked suddenly, making her jump in surprise. What? She looked at him incredulously. It's just, I've never been in love with other girl. I love my family, I love my sisters and I loved my mother. Never have I felt anything towards a woman that could be called romantic love. How do you know if you're in love? Is it something that can even be described? He dived his face into the pillow and waited. Yoruichi was looking at him with wide eyes. Did he really ask? Me? Why do you ask me, Ichigo? He rolled over and glanced at her. Well, I got no one else. Hell would sooner freeze over than me asking Dad this kind of stuff. Everyone else is out of question. I can't exactly ask Rukia either, since for one, she's the one who's the subject of this question, and secondly, she doesn't look like she would know how to answer. Yoruichi mentally slapped herself. Of course. That was a stupid question. I still seem to forget that he's so young and has no actual experience. Well, I did once love somebody. It was a long time ago. More than 100 years actually. It was a brief love too. Nothing serious. It was him who taught me the Shuanpa and made me into Goddess of Flash. Really? Who was it? Ichigo asked in wonder. Yoruichi shook her head apologetically. I can't talk about him. I mean, I can, I hold no longer feelings towards him, but he's a man of a higher rank than a captain and so he's one of the secrets I must keep. Ichigo nodded in acknowledgement. So how did I know I was in love with him? That's a tough one, Ichigo. She sat and put her chin on her knees. Yeah, I know, it's just. Tatsuki practically confessed to me, Oraheim admitted that she feels something too and now Rukia? Tatsuki and Oraheim I could handle, since I was sure how I feel about them. With Rukia, I don't think I'm in love with her either, I just wanted to be sure. Ichigo admitted and scratched his head. Yoruichi raised an eyebrow. Well, to be honest I'm kind of relieved to hear that. God knows why. To answer your question, if I'd have to think about it, I simply enjoyed his company. Whenever he was around I was feeling happy, as if I was intoxicated. I felt no worries and I could talk to him about anything. I felt no embarrassment in front of him. When he touched me, it gave me a burning sensation. But that's probably right for an impulsive love, the kind that comes and goes in a few weeks. I think that if you truly love someone, you'd do anything for him, you'd want to be with him anytime and anywhere. You'd feel compelled to bring him happiness and you'd want him to be there, next to you, while you're sleeping. I don't know, I'm many times older than you and even I can't give you a proper answer and I'm just mumbling and going around one thing like a repeater. She dropped her head ashamed. To her surprise, she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. She looked up and saw Ichigo smiling at her. It's okay. I had a feeling that something like that can't be explained by simple words. I only wanted to hear your opinion. You may be a pervert, but I value your input. You're wiser than me, Yaruchi-san. She looked at him breathless. Wow, he's going to be a lady killer. I almost want to. Oh, am I interrupting something? Devilish voice of Kukaku interrupted the moment. Kukaku-san! Ichigo exclaimed in surprise and flushed a little. She flashed to him and whacked him on the head. I told you to call me just Kukaku. We're family, no need for honorifics. I got it, no need for pain. Ichigo rubbed his head. Yaruchi meanwhile turned away and put on her clothes. Maybe I should thank her. If she didn't come, I actually could have kissed him. I need a man. When you're being attracted even to a young boy, you know that something's wrong. Why can't Kasuke be just a little bit more normal? She sighed and shook her head. It was almost noon when an irritated Ichigo walked from the 13th Division barracks. Once again, he couldn't find Rukia, as she was training somewhere in noon in the division nowhere. He was starting to consider the fact that Rukia herself didn't want to see him, or that she was even ashamed for what she said to him during the party. He wasn't watching where he was going, and after a little stroll he found himself in front of the 2nd Division. Having nothing else to do, he walked inside and saw the members of the division under strict training from their captain, Suefone. After a few minutes, she noticed him and grinned evilly. What are you doing here, Kurosaki? Finally decided that you want to get your ass kicked in that promise spar? She called out for him, startling him a little. The rest of the squad stopped training and looked at him with curious eyes. No, you know what? Let's do it. I'm a little bit tense. This should get the blood flowing. Suefone rubbed her hands. It was time to beat the brat. Ichigo is fighting Captain Suefone. An excited voice of Matsumoto interrupted the lieutenant's meeting, who stared at her in shock. What? Why? Renji jumped from his chair. I don't know, but it looks like a friendly spar. She replied and ran a ways to spread the news more. The lieutenants looked at each other and jumped from their chairs and flashed to 2nd Division barracks. Captain Suefone wasn't grinning anymore. In fact, she was frowning. She thought that she would beat Ichigo in a few minutes, but he was proving a lot more competent opponent than she thought. So? I thought you were going to show me. Ichigo taunted her. I say that, but if I didn't have my Hierro, I'd be probably limping. She's good, really good. He thought and cracked his knuckles. Don't get too cocky, brat. She yelled back and flashed to him, aiming to kick him in the head. Ichigo quickly ducked and then rolled, as he was sure that it was just a feint. He was proved right, as he felt her leg fell on the dust a little on his left. From his crouching position, he tried to swipe her legs, but she saw through his move and quickly jumped, with her fist flying at his face. Whoa! He slapped her hand away just in time and grabbed her at the collar, trying to throw her through his shoulders. He succeeded, but without effect, as she rolled in the air and landed as a cat, on all four. She's more agile than me. On the other hand, I have more strength. Once again, she tried to surprise him with a flying kick, and this time he didn't duck. Instead, he decided to find out if his Hierro could withstand her kick directly. Suefone widened her eyes when she saw him extend his hand. She tried to outmaneuver him, but wasn't quick enough, and he caught her leg in midair. Wow, it only stings a little bit. This'll get handy. Ichigo thought as he felt only a slight pain in his hand. He threw her in front of him as strong as he could. Ugh! Suefone whimpered a little as she landed hard. Shit! She cursed when she noticed that Ichigo was already in mid-jump, and she rolled over, trying to avoid him. Let's try this. Ichigo thought and let some of his Ryatsu flow into his hand. He hit the ground with his fist just a few inches from her stomach, creating a small crater in the ground. Ow! Ichigo yelped as the punch proved too much even for his Hierro to handle, and he felt his knuckles scream from pain. Nothing was broken, but he already felt the bruise forming. Okay. No more of this for now. What the dash? Suifeng looked at Mark in the ground with wide eyes. That could have done more than just crack a rib. But he looks as surprised as me. She quickly jumped away and returned into defensive position. What did you do? She asked him curiously. Ichigo rubbed his knuckles. I tried to put some of my Ryatsu into my arm to increase the strength of the punch, but it seems I overdid it. It hurts like hell. He admitted. No shit. If I'd tried that, my wrist would have been broken. What is he made from? Damn, his bones must be made from stone. Renji commented from the sidelines. He and the other lieutenants have been watching the spar for the last few minutes. Yeah, I don't think even Captain Zaraki would be fine after that. Ikaku nodded in wonder. Ooh, do you think that his muscles are that hard too? Matsumoto asked quickly, making others shake their heads. I think that Kurosaki-san tried to find out the limits of his now hardened skin. Renji turned his head in surprise at the voice. Captain Kayaraku-san? Wait, the other captains are here too? What do you mean, now hardened skin? Hisagi asked. We think that after he merged with his hollow, he gained something akin to the hollow Hierro. Kamamura answered him. The others nodded in agreement. Lieutenants weren't surprised hearing about his merging, as their captains told them about it after the captain's meeting with Ichigo. Doesn't matter, it was too close. Go, Captain. Omida cheered on his captain with enthusiasm. Damn Omida, I'm trying to concentrate here. Suifeng muttered in irritation. Let's try the good old martial arts. She flashed again to Ichigo and aimed her fist to his stomach. He quickly sidestepped and attempted to do the same. She slapped his hand away and changed her aim. With her second attack, she tried to punch him in the jaw, and after that she hit him in the chest. Ichigo successfully evaded her strike to the jaw, but felt the second attack dead on. He grimaced from the pain. So she's trying the martial arts, huh? He answered with his own series of punches and kicks, both from karate and his street fighting. Suifeng jumped away, after she felt his fist on her shoulder. It's time to finish this. She taught and flashed as fast as she could and attempted to hit his leg from behind. Ichigo widened his eyes when he barely had the time to dodge, but he couldn't react to her second flash as she grabbed his arm and twisted it behind his back, with her legs blocking his. He lost his balance and was falling down when an idea hit him. With his one, somewhat free leg, he kicked in the ground and spinned himself during the fall, shaking her off him a moment before they hit the ground. He noticed that she was too surprised and didn't notice him already standing up. Again he tried his drop punch, and once again he missed by inches as she barely rolled away. They jumped at each other with renewed vigor and traded blows after blow, neither hitting the spot and neither gaining any ground. In the end, however, Ichigo's superior strength proved to be the winning element as he gripped her from behind, restricting her movements the same way she did before. He almost grinned, but suddenly he lost his footing and fell on the ground, with Suifeng on top of him. Shit! They both cursed as the dust swirled around them. Suifeng blinked a little, and after a few seconds, she realized that she was sitting on something that was alive. She looked down and saw Ichigo looking at her with wide eyes. Well, I guess neither of us won. He grinned and nodded in acknowledgement at her. Yeah, not that it doesn't bother me. You're good, Kurosaki, I admit it. You think fast during the fight, and few times you completely surprised me. It's been a long time since I enjoyed a spar. She admitted with a small grin. So if I want another one, you won't protest? He asked sincerely. Sure. So, could you get off me now? Ichigo asked in little embarrassment. She widened her eyes and quickly stood up, dusting herself in the process. They shook hands and Ichigo walked with her to her office, listening to her tips on how to further improve his Sakuta. Did he just? Did he win? Omida asked in disbelief.
He never saw anyone who could even match his captain in pure Hakuda.
No, it ended in a draw, which is surprising enough.
He's quite good to keep up with Captain Suifeng. Kayaraku replied deep in thoughts.
On the other hand, he's lucky to have his Hierro. I don't think he would be unhurt after those few blows he managed to get from her.
Yukite commented. Either way, I think that the next time I want to spar in Hakuda, I'll call him.
Hisagi said with respect, and the other lieutenants nodded in agreement.
Damn Ichigo, he's leaving me behind more and more. Runji thought bitterly. So, Ichigo-kun, how does it feel to be equal in Hakuda with a professional? Kayaraku asked Ichigo, after the latter one emerged from the office of Captain Suifeng.
Ichigo turned around in surprise to see the lazy captain waiting for him.
It would probably feel good, but I'm nowhere close to be her equal. I only managed thanks to my Hierro and the fact that I surprised her with my style. Ichigo admitted. He's keeping level-headed and even admits his faults easily. Impressive for someone so young. Kayaraku thought in a little surprise. Say, Kayaraku-san.
I heard that you're one of the most proficient Zanjutsu experts here in Siritii.
Do you think it would be possible for you to teach me a little bit of it in your free time? Ichigo asked him suddenly, surprising the senior captain even more. Oh? I was under the impression that you were already expert yourself, Ichigo-kun. Kayaraku replied slyly. Ichigo just shook his head.
Nah, I hardly know any Zanjutsu style, I simply listen to my instincts and react accordingly. I was lucky enough to fight only those without any style till now, too. Well, some of them had some techniques, but I pressured them enough for them to have no time to use them. I fought with Byakuya and he was probably the only one who used proper Zanjutsu against me, and it proved quite effective.
I'm not saying I have no basics, it's just… You know. Kayaraku nodded. Well, he's right. Fighting only with instinct can get you only so far.
Still, it's incredible for him to go so far.
I understand. Why don't you stop by my division barracks in an hour? I have some paperwork to do, and if I'd put it away, my Naneo-chan would, well, I'd be in no condition to help you. He laughed nervously.
Ichigo chuckled himself and promised to be there on time.
Okay, since we want to fight only with Zanjutsu, we'll only use our swords.
No techniques, no Ryatsu, no nothing, just pure swordsmanship. Kayaraku said in serious voice and saw Ichigo take a stance.
Your stance is good enough. You're ready to attack or to defend yourself.
Your eyes are on your opponent, good.
He put his flower-covered kimono away and took out his own twin Zanpakuto.
I wanted to use only one of my swords, but I think it'll be a good opportunity to test your agility with sword and your speed, too. Let's see how can you keep up against someone who's using more blades.
Kayaraku said and sped up to Ichigo with his Zanpakuto falling down on Ichigo.
Said person put up his blade to block the incoming attack and almost forgot about the second blade. He noticed it in the last moment and ducked, or else his head would have been gone.
Phew, no kidding, this'll take some time to adjust.
He retaliated by swinging his huge cleaver with all of his strength at the lazy captain, who blocked his attack with one blade at first, but quickly added his second blade, as he felt the force behind the strike.
Kayaraku widened his eyes a little. Strong, he thought, and pushed Ichigo away.
Without any time to spare, he flashed behind the teen and swung his blades horizontally, trying to cleave him in two. Ichigo spun around and blocked, but the captain immediately charged another attack, with his left blade aiming at his stomach. The blade of Zangetsu managed to block it, but Ichigo felt a little pain in his left shoulder and widened his eyes.
He quickly jumped, trying to put some distance between them.
He only managed to notice that he obtained a small cut on that shoulder, when he already had to block another vicious strike. He parried it as quickly as he could, but felt a pain in his other shoulder.
Damn! How can he attack with different hand in different speed? Ichigo thought angrily.
He spun himself around, holding Zangetsu in front of him, and managed to get away from the captain.
Not bad, Ichigo-kun, I never thought of the attack like that.
Kayaraku said appreciatively.
Ichigo snorted in disbelief. Yeah, right. That's why I'm the one who's bleeding. Well, to be honest, you should have been more injured. That he arrow of yours is really strong.
Kayaraku commented, making Ichigo widen his eyes.
Shit.
He cursed mentally. His eyebrows twitched in annoyance. He was aware that this was only a training, but getting cut so quickly was crumbling his pride a little. Kayaraku prepared himself and blocked the substitute's oncoming slash, but even he was pushed back a little.
Heh, seems like I injured more than only his shoulders.
He smirked. His plan to anger the teen was working splendidly.
Let's see how can he hold himself when he's angry. And after I fainted, I woke up the next morning in our barracks. Since then I'm so embarrassed, I can't meet him. What should I do, Nisan? Rukia asked her brother with her head in her hands.
Kochiki Byakuya was a captain of 6th Division, head of the Kochiki noble clan and by most people considered a strict, cold and uncaring person. But right now, he was having a headache, because he cared too much about his adopted sister, Rukia, who just told him a story about how she, under the influence of alcohol, confessed her feelings to Kurosaki Ichigo.
Kurosaki Ichigo. Byakuya found the teen irritating from the beginning.
He had no manners, which were instilled in the noble Kochiki from his birth.
He was young and brash, sometimes borderline rude and most of all, a rebel.
During the course of time and mainly, after their fight at the Sokayaku Hill, however, he found the substitute to be a very caring person and even the aristocratic Kochiki somehow came to like him on some level. He would never say it out loud, but that rebel side of him was something that the captain couldn't afford, but wanted. To be able to stand for their belief, to stand against the law and fight it for the ones he wished to protect, it was something that was denied to him. First time he heard about his adopted sister living under the same roof, even in the same room as the teen, he almost flipped and lost his composure. No matter what was said about him, he cared about Rukia deeply. She was his pride, at first a simple stone, now a trimmed diamond, his remainder of his lost love, his Anna, and by her, his family. She was the only member of the Kochiki clan that cared about his well-being on personal and deep level.
She wasn't as cold as the elders or the remainder of the clan. She wasn't as aristocratic, and had a nice sense of humor.
She was the only person who could penetrate his icy cold demeanor and make him chuckle a bit. So when she told him calmly that she was living in Kurosaki's closet for the whole time, she quickly had to calm him down, and after rethinking it, he had to admit, he jumped to the conclusion too quickly. He got to know the young substitute and learned that he valued women too much to do something as vile as, well, shortly, he knew that his sister was in good hands.
But now he was told that she was in love with the boy? Byakuya was in all honesty perplexed. How should he react? What should he say to her?
He himself was in love only once, with his Anna.
Should he kill the boy for attracting her? Should he deny her access to him? Should he ignore it all? Or should he support her?
He rubbed his temples.
The headache was already here. Ni-san? Rukia asked timidly. Yes, I was listening, Rukia.
I'm just trying to understand the situation.
She nodded shortly and waited. Why are you so embarrassed? And is it really embarrassment that you're feeling? Isn't it that you fear the possibility of him rejecting you, that you can't see him? Byakuya asked after a few minutes.
He watched as her head snapped up and cursed mentally when he noticed her shock. But she needs to hear it. She needs to know that he may not reciprocate her feelings. He told himself.
I don't know, Ni-san. Do you think it's possible?
I mean, it is possible. I'm not that pretty, I'm small, I'm not so well endowed. She started to mumble incoherently.
No. Rukia, you are a beautiful woman and every man would be happy to have you as wife.
I'm just saying that there may be a possibility that he only likes you as a dear friend. You have an exceptionally strong bond between you, akin to the one that the damn cat and the Urahara Kasuke share.
However, I do not know if what you have is the kind of the bond you wish to have. You just have to confront him. Byakuya replied quickly.
He knew of her low self-esteem and he didn't want to hear it. She smiled gracefully and nodded.
Do you think you'd be able to be just his friend, even if he rejects you? Byakuya asked after a moment of silence. I don't know, it would be perfect if he'd accept me. He's one of the few that even Nissan or the elders would approve of. He's a gentleman, maybe a tad rude, but he always treats women with kindness. He's very strong, caring, handsome. She mumbled the last bit, surprising Byakuya, who got a coughing fit. After he calmed down, he saw that Rukia was blushing furiously after her slip. Yes, well, it seems that women find him quite attractive, Byakuya admitted, not noticing Rukia's shocked expression. I think we could still be friends. We've been together through a lot of stuff, and that's something that can't be forgotten. We share memories, and that's enough for me, but when I see him with another woman I just get so jealous. I hope that when he'll find someone for him and it won't be me, I'll be over him, she said sadly. Byakuya beamed at her. His pride indeed. She's very mature about it. More than I would probably be. I'm proud of you, Rukia. He looked out his window and sighed. Think carefully before you speak to her, Kurosaki. I'd hate to go bankai on your ass if you're insensitive towards her. Damn, no wonder he's an expert. Ichigo thought out of breath. He and Kayaraku were getting at it for almost an hour and both of them were sweating bullets. Ichigo was now spurting cuts all over, bleeding slightly. It was thanks to his Hiero that he wasn't already in 4th Division. On the other side stood Captain Kayaraku. Surprisingly, he had some injuries himself. He was an expert in Zanjutsu, and yet, he let himself get caught in some of the surprising moves of Ichigo, who thought out of the box. After he got his first injuries, Ichigo was angry and fought with a little rage, but it quickly cooled off after he noticed that it not only didn't help, it made him even more of a target. So he switched tactics and started to not just swing with his huge cleaver around, but he tried to copy some of the moves he saw Kayaraku performing on him. It proved a good thing, when after almost 15 minutes, he finally managed to surprise the captain and nick him a little on his wrist. Since then, he managed to slightly injure him more. He was, however, the one who was spending a lot more energy on offense and defense and was quickly losing his stamina. But it seems he's getting tired too. Ichigo was grateful for having enormous Ryatsu capacity that allowed him to somehow keep up with more experienced captain. He jumped and tried to flash to his opponent, when he noticed that Kayaraku held up his hand. I think it's enough, Ichigo-kun. I don't think I remember having to spar that much with somebody, and I'm getting all sweaty. He grimaced when he smelled himself a little. And I start to reek of sweat. I can't have that. He chuckled a little but then got serious. As I said after your spar with Captain Suifone, you're really good, Ichigo-kun. Not many people in Siritai could keep up with me for that long and survive. Of course you have much room to improve as well. I'm sure you noticed that even with your limitless stamina, you're getting tired, which means that you use too much energy in fight. He said and saw Ichigo nod. On the other hand, it's incredible that you managed to last that long and you have only so few injuries. It's thanks to your Hiero, but even then. More importantly, I noticed that you managed to copy some of my moves perfectly after only seeing them a few times. That's really amazing. Urahara Kisuke was right, your ability to improve is almost scary. I think I can say without thinking that you're more of a prodigy than even the likes of Captain Hitsugaya or Ikimara Jin. It took me a lot of centuries to get where I'm now, and I think that you could surpass me in a few decades. You probably already surpassed me in terms of Ryatsu, but I think I could still surprise you in other areas. He chuckled a little. You can say it, Kayaraku-san, if you wanted to, you could kick my ass. Ichigo laughed a little bit bitterly. No, I don't think so. Remember, we were using pure swordsmanship, and even with that you managed to injure me. I can outclass you in Kido for now, but there's no way I could simply kick your ass. No, if we would to go full out, I'd be probably quickly pressed to use even my Bankai to fight you. Kayaraku praised him. Ichigo looked at him with wide eyes. Really? Kayaraku nodded slightly in motion to follow him to get some refreshments and to talk about some tips on Ichigo's Zanjutsu. Ichigo was walking through the halls of 4th Division with a smile on his face. After he trained a little with Kairaku, he visited Aizen's ex-lieutenant in 4th Division again. Since his first visit, Hinamori became a little bit calmer and she didn't have that oppressive aura around her. As Ichigo suspected, talking about her memories helped her release some of the angst she felt ever since Aizen defected. Today, she told him the story about how she met Toshiro when they were younger. As Unohana later informed him, it was the first time after long weeks that anyone saw Hinamori truly smile. Ichigo was happy for her. He may knew her for only a short time, but during his talks with her, he was convinced that she was a truly nice person, kind-hearted, who deserved to be happy. While he thinking about his visit, he accidentally bumped into someone with pink hair. Oh, sorry Hachi. The person he bumped into was one of the wizards, the pink giant, Hachigen. It's fine, Ichigo-san. What are you doing here, if I may ask? The wizard asked him politely. I was just visiting Hinamori Momo. She was Aizen's lieutenant and she wasn't doing very good. Ichigo sighed with small smile. But she's a little bit better now. It'll take more time, but I think she'll get over it. Hachi nodded encouragingly. Yes, poor soul. Aizen did horrible things to her as well, I'm sure of it. Where are you headed now? You look a little bit roughed up. Something happened? Ichigo looked at his clothes and chuckled. Nah, I was just training with Kairaku-san in Zanjutsu. I thought, since I'm here I could use the time to improve myself. Long story short, I found out I have a long way to go till I can beat someone of his caliber with pure swordsmanship. He snorted. I was just thinking that maybe I could finally try to learn some Kido, since it's the one thing I know nothing about, but I don't know who could teach me. I was thinking about asking Rukia but she's kinda out of the question. Hachi frowned and stared at Ichigo who raised an eyebrow at him. Well, if you wanted to, I could teach you Kido. You are one of the wizards, after all, so I don't mind. Hachi finally said to a surprised Ichigo. Really? Oh, I almost forgot that you were lieutenant of the Kido Corps. That would be great. Ichigo exclaimed with enthusiasm. No problem. Wait for me in the courtyard. I'll go to Unohana-san to get an approval to use her barracks. Hachi chuckled lightly and walked away. So, Ichigo-san. Tell me, how is your control of your Ryatsu? Hachi asked, standing next to a sitting Ichigo. Not that good? Ichigo smiled nervously. Yes, the first step in our training will be learning how to withdraw the Ryatsu you're constantly emitting back into your soul so that your output would be minimal. I don't expect you to do it perfectly today. Actually, I think that if you'd be able to do that in a week's time would be incredible. So, no worries if you can't do it. Hachi smiled and sat in front of him. Now, in order to release your Bankai and your Resurrection, you need to increase your Ryatsu output. I know that when you return back to your Shirkai, that output is decreased by your doing, so you know the basics. To further improve that, you have to visualize your Ryatsu. Close your eyes. He said and watched as Ichigo closed his eyes. The best way to do it is to imagine some sort of container. In your case it must be something huge, proportional to your vast amount of Ryatsu. I'd suggest a dam. When you have it, increase your output the same way you do before the Bankai release. Hold it there and then slowly withdraw it back, but this time, put it in your dam. You may find out that your dam is a little bit small, and in that case don't push more, just do it again from the beginning, this time with a dam of increased size. Easy, right? Ichigo snorted bitterly and focused. He tried to imagine a dam as instructed. When he was sure it was done correctly, he raised his Ryatsu on the level of releasing his Bankai and held it steady. After a moment he slowly started to withdraw it back. Ha! I can see my dam but it's not filling up? He thought confused. Hachi, why isn't my dam filling up? Am I forgetting something? Ichigo asked with closed eyes. It's a good thing I put up that barrier to prevent Ryatsu from leaking. It's really heavy. Hachi was sweating a little and wiped his brow. Yes, I forgot, sorry about that.
You have to visualize the flowing Ryatsu and transform it into something that has physical mass. Since you're filling up a dam, I'd say, imagine your Ryatsu as the water flowing in the river and point that river into your dam. Hachi replied. Oh, why didn't I think of that? Ichigo mentally slapped himself. He did exactly as instructed, and when he tried to feel his Ryatsu and visualize it as the river, his mind pictured an image of a wild and raging torrent of water that constantly flowed around him. Wow, is this my Ryatsu? Ichigo thought, amazed. After shaking his head, Ichigo started to withdraw the massive stream back into his dam. It was a slow process, and it seemed that no matter how long he let the dam to be filled, the stream wasn't weakening. Hachi watched Ichigo struggle and smiled. He was already making a progress. The heavy Ryatsu that was pushing him to the ground just seconds ago was slowly but surely disappearing. He expected Ichigo to have more problems with it, but him merging with his hollow probably sped up the process, as he now possessed a little bit better control than before. When Ichigo's Ryatsu dropped to his normal levels while in his constant Shurikai, he noticed that Ichigo's frown deepened and a little sweat started to form on his brow. Now was the moment for the true test of his control. If Ichigo could lessen his normal output even just by little, he would do some progress. Damn, it's getting harder to direct the flow into the dam every minute. Ichigo gasped mentally. His dam wasn't completely full, as he made it practically bottomless, but the torrent of water flowing around him was losing its obedience towards his will. What am I doing wrong? I'm no longer conflicted about my hollow, so what is it? It can't be just because I have so much Ryatsu. If Yamaji can do it, so can I. He cursed and concentrated again. Hachi widened his eyes as he felt that Ichigo's Ryatsu did a huge drop and was now on lieutenant level. And it's still dropping, interesting. After 10 more minutes, when Ichigo's output reached the level of 4th seat and was no longer dropping, Hachi stopped him. I think that it's enough, Ichigo-san. Now imagine that you close the dam and reinforce its walls, so that the pressure won't destroy it. After you do it, you can drop your concentration. If you did it correctly, the Ryatsu you contained in it should remain there. You're doing great so far. He saw that Ichigo's face showed relief, and after 10 more minutes, he saw him open his eyes and wipe his brow. Ha, so it's working? Ichigo asked tiredly. Yes, it's working splendidly. You now only emit the Ryatsu of the seated officer, what is in my humble opinion incredible progress. I expected you to drop your Ryatsu to a lieutenant level, at best, but you again proved to do better. He gave Ichigo thumbs up. So? Now what? Ichigo asked with a happy smile. I did it. Not completely, but it's something. Now, we can try to learn some actual Kido. We'll try the basic ones and see how will that go. Hachi rubbed his chin in thoughts. Firstly, Kido or demon arts, in other words, are divided into 3 classes. Bakudo or way of binding, which are supplementary spells, Heido or way of destruction, and Kaido or simply healing Kido. Each class is important and can drastically change the direction of fight. Surprise use of Bakudo can trap your opponent, with the Heido you can cause great damage to him all the while you're healing yourself with Kaido. With me so far? Ichigo nodded in enthusiasm. Good. We'll begin with Heido, as I think we'll agree that destruction is something you can do quite well. Its number is 1 and the name is Sho. Heido number 1, Sho. Hachi turned and pointed at the practice target, which got blown a small distance. As you can see, this Kido has no incantation. It's a simple spell, where you direct your Ryuryoku into your index finger, point it at your target and let the energy flow. It helps if you visualize the effect, which is a simple thrust. Be careful and do not use too much of your Ryuryoku. This spell can be used effectively by students in academy, and therefore the need for energy is very low. Now you try. Ichigo stood up and walked next to Hachi. He pointed his index finger in the direction of the second practice target and concentrated. Focus the energy into your finger, visualize the effect and let it flow. Got it, it's like Getsuga, only with lesser amount of energy. Should be easy enough. He imagined the target to be blown away and let a bit of energy flow into his finger. When he couldn't contain it any longer, he let it out and watched as the target was blown from its place to Hachi's barrier like a bullet. Ichigo widened his eyes when he felt a pain in his finger and saw a little smoke emerge from it.
Ow! What happened?
Hachi chuckled and turned to him.
You used too much Ryuryoku and the redundant energy burned you. But it seems you grasped the context quickly enough. Ichigo nodded. Yeah, it's similar to when I use my Getsuga. I thought I put as little energy as I could, but I guess it was still too much.
Yes, if you wanted to use it, for example, to get your injured comrade out of the combat zone, you'd probably injure him more. Ichigo cringed at the words and got into the stance again.
Again, he said and focused once again.
This time, the target was blown away with a smaller force and his finger was no longer smoking.
Hee hee, easy as pie.
Ichigo grinned cheekily at his success.
It is the most basic Kido spell after all.
Hachi commented, making Ichigo pout a little.
Now try the basic Bakudo spell.
It's called Sai and its purpose is to bind the arms of your target behind its back. Hachi aimed at the practice target with his index and middle finger together.
Bakudo number 1, Sai.
The target's arms locked behind its back instantly.
I know this one. Rukia used it on me when we first met. Ichigo remembered and then grinned evilly. Revenge will be sweet.
Hachi only chuckled and let him took the stance.
The process is the same as with the show.
Energy into both of your fingers, visualize, let it out.
Bakudo number 1, Sai.
This time Ichigo managed to do it correctly on his first try. He already knew how much energy he should use. He turned to Hachi with a victory sign and waited for another instructions.
Good.
You can try to improve the speed in which you perform these Kido in your free time, since both of them aren't that potent and you can't destroy larger areas with them.
Now we'll try other 2 Kido that don't require incantation. The first one, a Heido type, is called Byakurai.
Watch closely. Hachi turned to the practice targets and held up his palm.
Heido number 4, Byakurai.
He said, and a torrent of blue energy, similar to a lightning bolt, emerged from his hand and destroyed the target.
Byakuya used this on me, another one bites the dust. Ichigo thought mentally.
For this Heido, you have to gather a little bit more of your energy and compress it as hard as you can.
When it's done, imagine the energy to be the energy of electricity and let it out. Bit of a warning though.
This time start with as little Ryuryoku as you can.
Byakurai is a Heido, which when used with too much energy and little control can electrify you and it's not pleasant.
Hachi warned him.
Ichigo held up his hand and concentrated. He gathered as little Ryuryoku as he could and pushed it into his hand. Now compress it! Exclamation point. Ow!
Ichigo cursed after a small explosion engulfed him with a smoke.
Ah, it seems that you tried to compress the energy without paying attention to the set energy.
You can't simply compress something without having it wrapped in something. Just like with your energy being in your dam, the energy in your palm has to be contained, you need to define its borders. Hachi said through the smoke and heard Ichigo mumble something.
He could have said that before I tried it. Got it. Ichigo replied and tried it again. He compressed the energy successfully on his second try.
Okay, transform it into electricity just as it emerges from your palm. Hachi watched him struggle and saw a small blue airflow from Ichigo's hand.
Try again with a tiny bit more Ryuryoku and you didn't transform the energy correctly.
Ichigo's mouth twitched in annoyance.
Like I wasn't trying.
For the next 10 minutes Hachi watched Ichigo fail, but on his 9th try, he managed to produce a regular Byakurai.
Good.
Add more energy in again, till the torrent is the same diameter as your palm. Hachi commanded and he waited another 5 minutes for Ichigo to complete it.
Ichigo wiped his brow after the practice target in front of him blew up from his successful Heido. Okay, we will learn one more Kido today, Ichigo-san. It's called Seiki and it's a Bakudo. For this I want you to try and kick me when you'll see an orb on my right hand.
Hachi told him and waited for Ichigo to nod. He raised his right hand.
Bakudo number 8, Seiki.
Here goes. Ichigo thought and tried to kick him in the hand, but when he made contact with a light blue orb, his foot was blocked and repelled back, sending him few meters back.
I trust you understood the effect of this Kido?
Hachi asked him after he released the Kido.
Yeah, it can block and repel physical attacks? Ichigo replied. Yes, but it's not limited on physical attacks only.
It can do the same with other Kido, but mostly only those, which are of lower level. However, if you can put more Ryuryoku in it while maintaining it, you could block Hado of even higher level.
I think that low-powered Shikako can be blocked too.
Sweet. For this Bakudo, you have to push the Ryuryoku to the part of your body that you want to protect. It's easiest to use with hands, so you should start with that. Gather the energy and flatten it so that it would form an orb, covering that part of your body.
Imagine it and let the energy emerge. Hachi instructed him and walked a few steps away.
When you're sure you have it, announce it and I'll try a regular show to test it.
Ichigo nodded and focused on the task. He raised his hand in similar way Hachi did and gathered the Ryuryoku. From his knowledge on Byakurai, he firstly contained the energy and formed borders around it, and only after that he proceeded to flatten it.
He let the Ryuryoku flow from his body and glanced at his hand.
He noticed a translucent orb next to his right hand.
Got it! He yelled to Hachi and braced for the possible failure of his Kido.
Hachi pointed his finger on the orb. Show!
He called and Ichigo could almost feel the energy stopping on his Seiki and bounce back at Hachi, who managed to avoid his own spell. Ichigo grinned at Hachi, who only applauded him.
Very good, Ichigo-san.
You can try to improve yourself in these Kido on your own since you know the basics. For now, switch between speed in which you can use them and the level of power put behind them. You could try and use them without calling them out loud, but be careful with it.
Kido tends to be harder to control without verbal command. Thank you, Hachi. I hope we can do this again soon. I kind of like this Kido stuff. It's nice to see the results of your hard work as soon as you get it right.
Ichigo grinned and lied on the floor tiredly.
Hachi smiled and sat on the ground too, assuming meditating pose.
Well, I could have told him that what he learned in mere 2 hours takes more than a month in a Shinigami Academy. Ichigo woke up in his inner world facing his Zanpakuto spirit.
Oh, Zangetsu, what is it?
Ichigo asked, still lying comfortably.
I wanted to talk to you, Ichigo, but before that I'm curious, how can you lie there? Zangetsu asked in amusement when he saw Ichigo open and widen his eyes. He looked down and saw that he was floating in the air.
Instantly, he jumped on the nearby skyscraper and with twitching brow glanced at Zangetsu.
You did it on purpose. Ichigo yelled and sighed when he saw his Zanpakuto smirk. I'd never do that. Hi's smirk widened when Ichigo only cursed quietly. But enough fun.
Ichigo, I noticed that you finally decided to train and I must say I'm proud of your accomplishments. Ichigo looked at him in surprise.
What accomplishments?
I got my ass kicked by Suifong, Kairaku-san, and it took me long 2 hours till I learned the easiest Kido. He grimaced but had to dodge a surprise swipe from his Zanpakuto.
What the dash? Zangetsu shook his head.
You're giving yourself too little credit, Ichigo. Suifong is a master assassin, second only to your friend Yoruchi, and to equal her is not something many can do. I don't think that most of the captains are so skilled in Hakuda.
Captain Kairaku was at least half a millennia older than you and yet you managed to press him.
Those Kido you learned are easiest to learn maybe for academy students, because they don't have much Ryatsu. You, on the other hand, possess so much Ryatsu that learning basic Kido should have taken you a lot more time. That you did it in only few hours' time is very, very good. Remember that even your friend, Rinji, who's a lieutenant, can't do some Kido properly and yet you already learned 4 of them.
Zangetsu scolded him with stern voice. Ichigo looked at the ground embarrassed.
Well, only Zangetsu could encourage me and scold me at the same time.
He chuckled and looked at his Zanpakuto. I guess this isn't the reason you called me here. Zangetsu nodded and turned away. Soon we'll train too, Ichigo. It's time that you learn my secrets. I can't have you swing with me and using only one technique.
Ichigo gasped and flashed to him.
Cool, what do you have in mind? Zangetsu almost chuckled at the eagerness in Ichigo's voice.
You'll see, but I must warn you, Ichigo. When I'm training, I'm not very kind.
You'll have to show me that you deserve to know what I want you to learn. Zangetsu warned him with serious voice. Ichigo gulped and nodded.
He remembered from his training for Bankai just how unkind his Zanpakuto could be. But now, Shirasaki would want you to learn some of his techniques. You did good using them in your fight with Aizen, but you spent too much energy on them.
When you'll wake up, he'll talk to you.
Ask your friend Hachi to erect a strong barrier around you, since you'll be using your Hollow Ryatsu and we don't want anyone to mess with the training. Zangetsu surprised Ichigo again, who only widened his eyes.
I guess I'll be sleeping like a baby tonight.
He turned around and prepared to go out of his inner world when he heard Zangetsu.
Go, Ichigo.
If you'll train hard enough in time, I may show you the true form of my Bankai too. Ichigo turned his head in shock, just as he woke up at the training grounds of the 4th Division.
True form? What does that even mean?
Ichigo jumped in surprise when a familiar voice interrupted his thoughts.
As Zangetsu said, Kingy, you'll see in time.
But you can't be a pussy and have to show Zangetsu who's the boss around here.
Shirasaki, you've been quiet these days. Ichigo greeted him. Nah, I've just been asleep. Additionally, I'm proud of you, Kingy.
Even someone as gay as you managed to get 2 hotties in bed with himself.
Shirasaki laughed when Ichigo flushed a little, after an image of naked Yoruchi and Kukaku entered his mind. Shut you up.
He stood up and walked to Hachi, who was watching him for a moment.
Hachi, could you do a strong barrier around me? Just like you did in the warehouse, when I was trying to control my hollow?
He asked him and watched as Hachi looked at him in surprise.
Of course, but may I ask why?
Ichigo scratched his head nervously.
Ah, well, Shirasaki, my hollow, wants me to learn how to use his powers properly so that he won't be ashamed by me.
Hachi's surprised face morphed into a shocked one and he looked at Ichigo with alarm.
Are you sure? I mean...
Ichigo held up his hand and stopped him.
It's okay, I understand your concern, but trust me, it'll be just a training.
Hachi nodded and motioned him to stand in the center of the training grounds. He was preparing to build up a barrier when Ichigo called out to him. And make it so that it can mask and endure a lot of Hollow Ryatsu. I'm going to go into Resurrection, so you catch my drift. Hachi nodded and prepared the barrier.
Inside, Ichigo frowned.
You know, I still don't know why I have to go into Bankai and only after that into Resurrection. Ichigo muttered to his hollow.
Shirasaki facepalmed. And I thought you're supposed to be the intelligent one. Tell me, can a Shinigami go to a Bankai from his sealed blade?
No, he has to go into Shurkai first. Arankars can release their Resurrection immediately, but we are different.
Our Resurrection works as another release of our power.
Only when your Shinigami powers are at your max you can use the hollow ones.
It's because the Shinigami side of you is preventing them from releasing too early as it could damage you. Resurrection, mainly ours, is extremely strong and it has to have an opposing force that could balance it accordingly, and that's your Bankai.
You can use your hollow powers even when you're in Shurkai, but they can only be as strong as is your Shurkai. Shirasaki explained to a surprised Ichigo.
So basically, my hollow attacks can be only as strong as is my Shinigami level? It's confusing. It means that even when I'm using hollow powers I can't do stronger attacks than with my Shinigami ones? Ichigo asked in confusion. It's like this.
You're in Shurkai now. If you'd use your Zero, it would be as strong as your Getsuga.
In Bankai it would be as strong as Korwa Getsuga. But if you release your Resurrection,
the attacks would be strong as the Zero and Korwa Getsuga combined. To answer your question, it's good to learn how to use hollow powers even when you're not in Resurrection, because of the diversity of attacks. Additionally, a Zero is a lot faster than Getsuga and Bala is even faster. Imagine how surprised could be your opponent if you'd spam Getsugas on him and suddenly a Bala hit him.
Shirasaki replied and could almost see a light bulb lighten above Ichigo's head. Oh, never thought about it in that way. Cool. Ichigo admitted. Of course, that's why I'm the instinct and you're the logic. Shirasaki snorted in amusement and waited for Ichigo to release. On the other side of the barrier, Hachi was looking out for any damage in it when he saw Ichigo release his resurrection. Immediately, the barrier started to crack and he widened his eyes. It was the first time anyone damaged his barrier with pure spiritual pressure. He quickly added more layers to it and wiped his brow. His eyes glanced to Ichigo's new form and he felt another bead of sweat forming on his forehead. He never witnessed Ichigo's resurrection before. Truly, a frightening sight. He said and had to sit down. So, what is the first thing I'm going to learn? Ichigo asked in wonder. You're going to learn how to use your Siro properly. As Zangetsu said, you used too much energy on it last time and only burned out your reserves. Shirasaki replied. But it was a stronger Siro. Ichigo protested. No, the excessive energy only dispersed, it wasn't used in the Siro because of your lack of control. I expect you to do it properly on your first time right now. Ichigo shook his head in amusement. It's only natural that my hollow would be the most harsh one. So what did I do wrong? I didn't concentrate enough and didn't compress the hollow energy properly? Ichigo asked in thought. Shirasaki blinked in surprise. Exactly. See? You're not as stupid as you look. Idiot, if I look stupid and we look the same, doesn't that mean that you look stupid too? Ichigo asked him while facepalming. Nah, 'cause I'm too handsome for that. Shirasaki laughed and watched Ichigo drop to the ground comically. Fine, let's get it over with. Ichigo concentrated on his hollow energy and pointed into his horns. As he noticed the red ball forming between them, he focused on the said ball and imagined it being compressed, all the while adding more Ryuryoku. Idiot. Enough. We're inside a barrier, do you want blow us up? Shirasaki yelled at him, startling him enough to let the Siro strike the practice target, which exploded on contact with it and the shockwave cracked the barrier and pushed Ichigo backwards. Oops. Ichigo laughed nervously and glanced at Hachi, who was already busy repairing the barrier. I swear every time someone praises you, you screw up. Shirasaki sighed, but, you managed to do the Siro correctly. No wasted energy whatsoever. You probably didn't even feel that you used any energy, right? Ichigo nodded. Good. Now, we'll try to improve your use of high-speed regeneration and that would be all for today, as you'll be too wasted to do anything more. Shirasaki said, getting a raised eyebrow from Ichigo. And how are we going to test it? Simply. Cut off your left arm. What? Ichigo yelled loudly. Are you fucking kidding me? You expect me to cut off my own arm? I have a preservation reflex for God's sake. Or you could blow yourself up with your own Siro. Which arm was it? Ichigo asked in defeated tone and shook his head. This is crazy. Left one. Don't be a pussy kingy. It'll grow back, we're just trying to improve the speed and the amount of used energy. Shirasaki said calmly. If that was supposed to calm me down, you suck at it. Ichigo grimaced and gripped his Zanpakuto in his right arm and looked at his left one. Crazy, crazy, crazy. He thought and sliced his left arm up to his elbow. Gah! He gasped from the pain and looked at his lump. Jesus, what is that kid doing? Hachi thought in shock. Now what? Ichigo asked through gritted teeth. It's quite simple. Just redirect the flow of your hollow energy into the wound and imagine your hand. Do it slowly, so that you can learn the proper amount that you should use. Ichigo nodded and with a pained frown focused on his wound. After a few seconds he saw a new hand forming and as the pain receded, he exhaled in relief. Okay, do it again. You used a good amount of energy, now I want you to do it faster. You should be able to repair your wound almost instantly. Shirasaki commented without mercy and Ichigo grimaced. Stupid, crazy, insane. He cursed and prepared his sword for the second time. Hachi has been watching him cutting his own hand for the past hour and was holding himself back, so that he wouldn't interrupt him. He was aware what was Ichigo's hollow trying to teach him, but he still considered it too cruel. Hachi glanced at his right hand, that was previously destroyed in his fight with the Segunda Espada, Baragon, and only thanks to Oraheim, it was restored, and sighed. After that fight he realized just how vulnerable he was. Seeing Ichigo learning to use high-speed regeneration gave him an idea. Not once the Vizards tried to use their hollow powers to heal their wounds, as they feared that it would only make them more hollow-like as they already were. But it was probably time to try it. He was interrupted from his musing when an extremely tired Ichigo knocked on his barrier and passed out from exhaustion. Hachi smiled and let the barrier down. Yes, it was time for Vizards to walk in Ichigo's steps and try to learn more about their powers. Chapter 7, Protectors Training PT2, The Cat, the Healer and the Soul. I'm happy that you're trying to use the time that you have here in a productive way. However, I'd be happier if it didn't mean ending up in medical care, Kurosaki-san. Unohana scolded Ichigo, who was putting his clothes back. After his training with Shirasaki, where he finally learned how to use high-speed regeneration efficiently, Ichigo woke up in 4th Division Barracks. Apparently, he passed out from exhaustion after cutting off and then healing his arm, and Hachi carried him inside for medical checkup. Ichigo was still flushed, since Unohana insisted on doing another full body check on him, and once again, she couldn't resist not to touch him more than she would with any other patients. After his dealing with women in Soul Society, Ichigo was slowly realizing what her actions meant, and it scared him a bit. He wasn't sure how he could deal with kind Captain, who could turn deadly serious in a heartbeat. I promise, Unohana-san. Since I learned how to use high-speed regeneration, it would have to be a really grave injury that could send me here. He smiled nervously at her and walked away. Ah, what a shame. He heard while closing the doors and shuddered from the eerie feeling he got from her voice. I can't deal with her. She's... He shook his head. I have to deal with Rukia first. After a few flash steps, he appeared in front of the 13th Division Barracks, hoping that Rukia would finally be here. Inside he noticed another petite Shinigami he remembered to be the sister of the lieutenant of the 4th Division, Isane, Kion Kotetsu. Excuse me, Kion-san? He called out for her and watched in mild amusement as the papers she was holding flew in the air from her arms. Kurosaki-san, you scared me. I almost couldn't feel your Ryatsu. What can I do for you? She asked him, breathing heavily from her frightened jump. Ha! So my control training finally paid off. Is Rukia here? Ichigo asked calmly. Yes, she was in fact looking for you. She's in the lieutenant's office. Kion replied, pointing at the door on far right. Ichigo widened his eyes. Don't tell me. Did she get promoted? The third seat shook her head sadly. No, she just likes spending time there, she said, and excused herself. Ichigo braced himself and flashed to the office. Here goes nothing. I wonder what will he say. Rukia thought sadly, sitting in the comfortable chair inside the office. She has been looking for Ichigo for the whole previous evening, but couldn't find him. Maybe he's angry that I was avoiding him? Her thought was interrupted by a loud knock on the doors. Yes? Rukia, it's Ichigo, we need to talk. Ichigo said, surprising Rukia, who didn't notice his presence till now. So the rumors of him training were actually true. Didn't think he had it in him? But to lower his Ryatsu after only a day, the elders would really like him. She blushed when the thought of her and Ichigo together invaded her mind. Snap out of it, Rukia. She mentally slapped herself. Come in, Ichigo. She called out for him and watched him walk inside with his huge cleaver on his back and his kimono revealing a bit of his chest. I'm behaving like a fangirl. She scolded herself when she felt blood rushing to her cheeks. Hey. He greeted her awkwardly. Hey yourself. Sit down, Ichigo. He sat on the offered chair and went silent. Well, this is awkward. Ichigo thought and opened his mouth. I want to dash. Listen, Ichi dash. They looked at each other nervously. You first. Rukia said and motioned him to continue. Thanks, Rukia. Did you really mean what you said at the party? That you. Ichigo tried to finish but blushed instead. That I love you? Rukia muttered quietly. Yeah, that. Ichigo nodded nervously. Rukia inhaled deeply and raised her head. She looked him in the eyes. Yes. Ichigo widened his eyes. He expected her to be nervous, to deny that she ever said something like that in the first place. All he could see in that moment was, however, pure resolve, not unlike the one he had when fighting someone. She looks completely sure. Why? She looked at him in confusion. What do you mean, why? Ichigo sighed and ran his hand through his hair. Why do you love me? I'm not a great person. I have many faults. I'm not the brightest person either. I'm not even a normal person in the first place. I'm a hybrid dash. He couldn't finish his sentence when he got slapped across his face. He widened his eyes when he noticed Rukia's trembling lip. Don't you dare call yourself that. You're an incredible person. Better than anyone else I know. You care so much about others that you always risk your life for them without any fear for yourself. You are smart and strong, kind and forgiving. I don't care what you are. For me, you are the one I admire the most. She yelled at him and covered her mouth at the end. Ichigo's eyes widened even further. I don't know what to say, Rukia. It's thank you. To hear what you think about me is giving me strength to say what I have to say, but Rukia, I have to be sure. I heard about the late lieutenant of the 13th Division and he heard Rukia gasp and sighed. Look, Rukia, my appearance is similar to Kyan Shiba and I heard that he was the one you admired the most. Maybe I'm an asshole for even bringing that up, but are you sure that what you're feeling isn't just because of my similarity with him? Ichigo stopped talking and waited with closed eyes. Rukia meanwhile had a sad smile on her face. Kyan-san. She shook her head and inhaled deeply. No, I admit, I respected Kyan-san deeply. He was the first person after I was adopted by Kachiki family that took me for who I am, talked to me like I was just another officer and didn't care for my Kachiki status. However, it has nothing to do with what I feel for you. You look almost identical to him, but you don't at the same time. I know who you are and I love the person who's standing in front of me, not the one that has been dead for a long time. She frowned when she noticed that Ichigo's shoulders dropped and he turned sideways. I guess this is it. I can only hope she won't hate me. Rukia, His breath got stuck in his throat when he glanced at her face. Words that he planned before he came here were not coming to him. Yes? She asked with small hope. Ichigo mentally slapped himself. He had to close this. I'm sorry, Rukia. I care about you deeply. We've spent a lot of time together and you helped me through very bad situations. Your words encouraged me when I was feeling down, but I don't love you the way you want me to. He bit his lip when a single tear appeared on Rukia's face. She clenched her hands and put them at her heart. Why? She whispered and closed her eyes. Ichigo tried to walk to her but she felt his movement and backed a little from him. With his head down he mumbled. I have no answer to that, Rukia. I'm only listening to what my gut tells me. You have many aspects that would make you a good girlfriend. You're smart, emphatic, pretty, strong, sometimes a little bit stubborn, you can keep most people in check, but I simply don't feel it. I know that if I didn't know you, my life would be worse than it is. But is that love? He smiled sadly and turned to the doors. He was sure that right now she needed space and his face was the last thing she wanted to see. My only hope is that we can still be friends, but I'll understand if it's not possible. He swallowed a lump in his throat and walked away. I'm sorry, Rukia. I hope that you can forgive me. When he exited the office, Rukia's legs buckled under the emotional stress and she fell on the ground. Her tears started to pour in great numbers and she was desperately clutching her chest. I knew that it could happen, but it hurts so much. I can't leave it like that. I need him. She was trying not to break down, but there was nobody that could hold her, that could tell her that it would be okay. It's all right, Rukia, let it all out. Sori no Shirayuki appeared in front of her and said in a calm, but sad voice as she tried to console her. Rukia glanced at her Zenpatku. She almost forgot about her. Shirayuki kneeled next to her and quickly wrapped her in tight embrace. Rukia couldn't take it anymore and broke down in sobs, while Shirayuki patted her back. It'll be okay, Rukia, just let it all out, it'll be alright. I wonder what's Ichigo doing? Yaruchi thought as she was strolling down the streets of Siritai. She left the Shiba's manor a few moments ago and was considering returning to the world of living to apologize Ishin for revealing his Shiba status to his son. Ah well, I could always take a nice dip in the open bath. She grinned and sped to the training ground she and Kasuke built a long time ago. What she found was however slightly damaged area with explosions surrounding it and a heavy Ryatsu in the air. She recognized the spiritual pressure instantly. Ichigo. I guess he talked to Rukia. Yaruchi frowned when she noticed that the Ryatsu was giving off an irritated aura. She slowly and stealthily jumped across the open area to the center of explosions. Her eyes widened at the sight of destruction. Deep craters were everywhere, remaining energy slowly ascending from them. The air itself was even heavier with Ryatsu, now that she got closer. In the middle of the area was panting Ichigo, covered with sweat. His Shinigami attire was ripped, showing more skin on his chest, that was too, covered with beads of sweat as he spurted a look of concentration on his face. Yaruchi was staring at him and swallowed heavily. In the next moments she felt him build up a Ryatsu. Hado number 4, Byakurai. He yelled and wide torrent of blue energy shot from his hand, destroying boulders that stood in its way easily. Yaruchi's eyes widened again. So he started to learn Kido and already can use Byakurai with its full strength. Nice, Ichigo. She raised her Ryatsu a bit, to alert him of her presence so that he wouldn't be too surprised. Then she remembered that Ichigo sucked at sensing Ryatsu. She was getting up and going to announce her presence in verbal way, when Ichigo's voice interrupted her. What's up, Yaruchi-san? He turned to her with a small frown, but when he noticed her slightly surprised expression, a small smile creeped on his face. You train sensing Ryatsu too? He chuckled a little. Not much, but even if I didn't, your Ryatsu was so familiar to me that I could feel you as soon as you landed. Oh. Yaruchi mumbled awkwardly. So? What are you doing here, Yaruchi-san? I doubt you knew I was here, so it's not because of me. Yaruchi quickly shook off her surprise. I thought about going in that bath that's behind you, but now that you're here, we could go together, like the old times. She grinned a little when Ichigo's cheeks gained a slight pink color. Nah, I'm too restless right now. I wouldn't be able to relax. His smile slowly diminished as he remembered the reason he came here in the first place. You talked to Rukia. It wasn't a question and Ichigo nodded. Yeah, do you mind if we'd spar a little? Only Hakuda, since I want to improve myself in it too. Ichigo asked her suddenly. Yaruchi wanted to object but she decided not to. I guess, but I heard that you did quite well against my little bee. Ichigo looked at her blankly at first, but he shook his head when it clicked to him that she was talking about Suiphone. Talk about accurate nickname, she did sting me a little. He mentally slapped himself. Quite good, but not good enough. He faced Yaruchi and got into a defensive stance. Yaruchi smirked and did the same thing. Show me what you got, Ichigo-chan. She taunted him a little and ducked under a swift kick. She grabbed the flying leg and with a quick turn, she smashed him on the ground. Her eyes widened in surprise when instead of biting the dust, he managed to recover with his hands and ricocheted from the ground, aiming a second kick which she barely dodged. She jumped back from him and smirked again. Not bad, Ichigo-chan, not bad at all.
She praised him a little and watched as his mouth twitched in suppressed smirk.
My turn.
She thought and kicked herself off the ground and instantly flashed above Ichigo's head, trying to dropkick him in the left shoulder.
She's even faster than Suifoam.
Ichigo grimaced a little as he couldn't dodge entirely and she grazed his skin a little.
Well, I wanted to improve. Who's better to train me than the goddess of Flash?
He was on the defensive, as she shot a barrage of kicks at his midsection, which he had to block with his hands, and he silently thanked Shirasaki for his he arrow. In the millisecond, when Yoruchi was recovering from her surprise at him blocking all of her kicks, he grabbed her knee and sidestepped her, throwing her away in the process. She landed on all four few meters away from him.
She's faster than me, I have to admit. He didn't have time to think more as she flashed again, and he raised his hands to block her kick again, when she suddenly flashed in midair, and next thing he knew, he was feeling a little sting on his back. Damn her Shuunpa.
He recovered from the kick and flipped himself on hands and landed in the crouch.
You're quite fast, aren't you, Yoruchi-san? Yeah, and you're still quite calm, what gives?
She grinned with satisfaction.
Because dash.
Ichigo flashed in front of her. She was already in the process of throwing a punch at his midsection when he flashed the same way as she did a moment before and reappeared behind her.
I'm fast too. He finished cheekily and swiped her legs successfully.
With his instinct screaming at him, he reflexively caught her ankle, which was only few inched from his face as she tried to kick him instantly after supporting herself on her hands. Swallowing his pride and reminding himself that this was only a spar, he kicked her in the stomach and sent her flying.
Well, she is the ex-captain of 2nd Division. She can take the hits.
Yoruchi skidded a little, till she used the momentum and flipped herself. She grimaced and clutched her abdomen.
Damn, he got me. I almost can't believe it.
But he held back with that kick, I can tell.
She coughed a little and stood back up.
Her smirk now gone, she flashed to Ichigo, throwing a sharp punch at his jaw, which he dodged. His leg already in the air, she jumped and used that leg as a springboard and kicked him in the jaw, spinning herself and landing in front of him. Ichigo staggered a little and cursed mentally. Both of the combatants cracked their knuckles and got into the stance again. After 10 more minutes, they were both panting a little, sweat rolling off their faces. Ichigo was spurting a little more sweat, as he was blowing off some steam before they even begun their spar. Ichigo's attire was now almost completely torn at his upper body, and a few scratches and bruises were left on his shoulders, chest, and jaw. Yoruchi, on the other hand, took her top off a little while back. Her hands had some cuts on themselves, she had busted lip, but her smirk was back. With a light breeze blowing off the dust around them, they flashed and met on the halfway, with Ichigo throwing a hard punch on her left shoulder and Yoruchi kicking his knee. In the last moment, Yoruchi jerked herself, narrowly evading the punch, and spun herself on his shoulders. She landed on his back with her knees, sending them both at the ground, while Yoruchi crouched on him, pinning him down on the ground.
Fine, I yield.
Ichigo grumbled, making Yoruchi smirk victoriously.
She got off him and helped him back on his feet.
They shook hands with a grin.
Thanks, Yoruchi-san, I needed this.
She slapped him on his back, making him wince a little.
No problem, you can always use me.
She grinned at him but then froze at the not intended double meaning. Fortunately, it didn't seem he noticed, and she released the breath she seemed to be holding.
Ow, I think I'll use that healing water. I'm beat.
Ichigo grumbled, and with a sigh he walked to boulders that shadowed the bath.
A small grin found its was on Yoruchi's face.
I wanted to take a dip in the first place, why not join him?
She chuckled and silently followed him.
She found him already in the water, enjoying it with closed eyes. She dropped the clothes and slowly walked in the bath, trying not to alert him.
You know, Yoruchi-san.
I hope you're in your cat form, or this will be quite awkward. Ichigo said, startling her a little.
Please be a cat, please be a cat.
Ichigo mentally prayed and almost jumped when he felt another skin touching his shoulder.
Oh, come on Ichigo, loosen up.
Yoruchi whispered into his ears, making Ichigo shift his position a little, as her close presence seemed to awaken some parts of his anatomy.
And open your eyes, I'm not gonna bite you. She laughed a little. Well, at least not eat, Kitty, you need to stop now. Yoruchi mentally slapped herself, trying to cool down.
Ichigo slowly opened his eyes and gulped, when he noticed a naked Yoruchi, dipped in the water just enough for him to see only the part she was comfortable with, leaning on his shoulder. You're being awfully brave these days, Yoruchi-san. Ichigo shuddered as she got more comfortable and accidentally showed him more skin.
You don't like it? She asked in sultry voice. He sighed and shook his head. To be honest, I think I'm slowly getting used to it. He said with closed eyes and therefore didn't notice Yoruchi's surprised face. She allowed herself a little smile and a content sigh escaped her lips. I talked to Rukia. Her eyes snapped open at his neutral voice and glanced at him. He was keeping his eyes closed, but a little frown appeared on his face, little bit hidden behind his orange hair. I almost thought he didn't want to talk about it. So? How did it go? She asked quietly. She felt him tense a little and so she turned him around, with his back in front of her. Ichigo almost yelped in surprise when he felt her small fingers kneading his shoulders. What are you doing, Yoruchi-san? She put a finger on his mouth from behind him and hushed him. You're a bit stiff so I'm giving you a massage. Don't get used to it though. Ichigo smiled and relaxed into her touch. A small blush found its way on his face when she let him lean on her and he could feel her breasts pushed against his back. He moaned a little when her hands found an especially sore spot. Yoruchi fought her own small blush at his moan and cleared her throat nervously. Calm down, kitten, you've never been embarrassed like this before. What did you tell her? She asked. A deep sigh escaped Ichigo's mouth. I asked her why she loves me. I wanted to find out if she was just confused like Oraheim. Turned out, she wasn't. I think she really loves me. When he felt that Yoruchi's hand stopped for a moment, he tried to turn his head and glance at her, but she quickly pushed his head back. You know that I'm naked, right? No turning head. She whispered into his ear. When she was sure he listened to her, she swallowed a lump in her throat. That's great, right? She's sure about her feelings and you can now be together. Speaking of that, I probably shouldn't be here with you if she saw us . Ichigo interrupted her with a sharp shake of his head. I don't feel the same way she does, Yoruchi-san. I don't know if I handled it well. I swear I could see tears in her eyes. I'm really trash, aren't I? He dropped his head and clenched his fists underwater. I know how she feels and yet I betrayed her by denying her what she wants. She loves and she's a wonderful person too, probably the best I could hope for. Yet I still cast her away, just like I did with Oraheim, Tetsuki. I'm a coward who tried to rationalize something that can't be explained. Maybe I should have tried it with her. I don't know. He muttered in low voice. Yoruchi watched as his hunched back with a frown and a little bit of. Ichigo widened his eyes when he suddenly felt her arms around his waist and her head on his shoulder. Wadash. Be quiet. He gulped and nodded. Yoruchi gripped him more tightly and leaned her cheek on the back of his neck. Stop with that kind of talk, Ichigo. You're not a trash just because you didn't respond to her feelings. You're simply young and not sure what you're feeling. Everyone is insecure in your age. Hell, even I had my own insecurities when I was your age. Nobody is perfect, but you're one of those people who strive to be exactly that. That's what I admire about you. You always want to be the best you can be. You have a strong sense of responsibility. Do you even realize what does this mean? That you're even cursing yourself for rejecting her? She nudged him with her nose. It means you're already far more than a trash. It means you're more than most of people I know. You want everyone to be happy, but I'm afraid that's something that can't be done. In your life, you'll probably learn that for yourself, so I won't try to talk some sense into you. Ichigo, you are a good person and that you don't feel the same way as those girls isn't a crime. It's just how life is. They'll get over it. If it's not meant to be, it won't be. It's just that simple. You'll find somebody for yourself in time. Don't rush it, just because of these confessions. Try to ease a bit and you can rely on those around you. You can rely on me as I'm here for you.
She noticed that one of his hands was gripping hers and she smiled a little.
This wasn't Ichigo she knew.
The person in front of her was just a young boy with ordinary problems, someone who wasn't just a machine.
Someone who was human. She felt him move and saw him raise his second hand.
Since she was hugging him from behind, she didn't know what he did, but she heard him sniffle and her eyes filled itself with warmth.
Ichigo.
He motioned her to release him and straightened his back a bit.
Thank you, Yorochi-san. It seems that you know me the best. I'm better now, he said without turning and coughed.
But I'm gonna carve this memory of you hugging me with your bosom into my brain, so that I'll never forget it. He turned and grinned at her cheekily, his blush now visible only as a slightly pink cheeks.
Yorochi gaped at him and blushed a little too. She whacked him on the head and ordered him to turn away. Pervert,
she muttered and went to put her clothes on with a warm smile. Ichigo just chuckled and inhaled deeply.
Thanks, Yorochi-san. I almost gave Zangetsu another reign.
After relaxing in a bath for a few more minutes, Ichigo dressed and left the training grounds with the intention to further train himself.
Zangetsu, are you there? He asked mentally. Of course, Ichigo. Zangetsu's deep voice answered him. I promised to train with you, so how do we do it?
Zangetsu seemed to ponder about it for a moment and then shook his head, not that Ichigo could have seen it.
Right now, we won't train, yet. I want you to go to the 4th Division and visit Unohana.
You mentioned that you wanted to learn healing Kido too, and she's the perfect person for that. She'll probably help you further with your control of Ryatsu, and that could help you out in my training. But after that, I promise, we'll train.
Zangetsu nodded to himself. Ichigo gulped heavily. Do I have to go to Unohana-san? You know how she is. He laughed a little nervously, which only amused Zangetsu. Oh?
Don't tell me you're afraid of an innocent healer, Ichigo. Ichigo grimaced and shook his head instantly.
Innocent my ass, she's giving me the creeps.
Well, just take it as another form of training. Overcome your fear of creepy healers. Ichigo pouted when he heard Zangetsu laughing in his mind.
Screw you, Zangetsu. He humphed and shut his mental link with his Zanpakuto, who was still laughing. He found Unohana quite quickly, since most of the patients were already released, leaving only few heavily wounded in the barracks. When she saw him knock nervously on the door of her office, Unohana allowed herself a small smile. I'm here for the second time today, must be a new record. Ichigo thought bitterly. Yes, Kurosaki-san. How can I help you?
Ichigo gulped at her sweet tone and avoided her stare.
If it wouldn't be too much to ask, could you, teach me some healing Kido, Unohana-san?
She widened her eyes in surprise and motioned him to come in. After Ichigo sat down on the chair in front of her, she gazed at him without blinking.
Why? She asked simply.
Ichigo raised his head and put his hands on the desk.
You already know that I've been training for a few days. I was able to learn some Kido yesterday and I'm planning to finally train with Zangetsu, my Zanpakuto. To do that, however, he told me to try to learn more control of my Ryatsu. I think that learning healing Kido requires an amazing control of your Ryatsu, so I thought I'd try that.
Besides, I may have high-speed regeneration, but my friends do not, and there were moments when they were left seriously injured and I couldn't do a thing to help them, no more.
If I can learn at least the basics, it would still be great, he said and met her gaze, in which Unohana could only see determination, pure determination.
She smiled more and put her hand on his.
Ichigo resisted the urge to run and raised an eyebrow. I only wanted to hear your reasons, Kurosaki-san, nothing more. That you want to be able to help your friends in need is, well, I don't think a healer needs a different reason.
Come with me, I can show you the basics quite quickly, and after that, Isane will help you to improve further. I apologize for that, but being a captain, I don't have that much free time. She smiled apologetically at him and motioned him to follow her. That way she didn't notice the relieved sigh that escaped Ichigo's mouth. He followed her in silence through the corridors of barracks of the 4th Division, and after a few minutes, they emerged in a small room, with almost no furniture, with a small statue and a table with incense. She sat down in front of the small statue and nodded to Ichigo to do the same.
"Where are we, Anohana-san?"
he asked cautiously. "This is something akin to a shrine for us, members of Medical Division.
We often come here to relax our minds and bodies.
This statue is emitting weak spiritual energy that helps you recover after a hard day, and the incense is filled with medical herbs and relaxing odor, which helps you to relax."
She turned and lighted the small accessory.
"It also serves as a training room, where thanks to the statue and incense we can train and improve our skills in more calming environment."
Ichigo looked around in wonder and frowned. "But don't you need an injured person to improve your medical skills?" Unohana smiled and shook her head. "Whatever gave you that idea, Kurosaki-san?"
"No, of course not, that would be highly impractical. Only thing you need is control, precision, and being calm."
Ichigo laughed embarrassedly and looked at the ground in shame. "You didn't know. It's understandable that you'd think that, despite what I'm saying. Now, you need to know what to do if you want to use Kaido. It's actually very simple to understand but harder to do,"
Unohana said and held her hand, which was glowing with green light, in front of his eyes.
"I'm guessing that you can feel what's emitting from my hand?" she asked Ichigo after a moment and looked at him expectantly. "Yes, it's your spiritual energy, but it's somewhat different. It's almost as if I could feel kindness? If it makes any sense."
Ichigo replied confused.
She gave him a wide smile and nodded. "Yes, very good, Kurosaki-san. You almost got it completely right.
The process of healing a person is by restoring the patient's Ryatsu at the beginning, so we could use his own Ryatsu to start the healing process, and then we mix our own Ryatsu.
This is quite easy. You simply focus your energy to the palm of your hand, choose the proper amount of energy you want to restore, and you will it into the patient's body. Of course, you have to take into account that every patient is different and not everyone can absorb big amounts of it.
You need to be gentle and do it slowly in small doses, so that the body would naturally begin to absorb." She stopped and waited for Ichigo to nod in understatement.
"We can start with that. Try to restore a bit of my Ryatsu.
I managed to deplete my reserves a bit, so I should be able to absorb quite easily. Oh, and before you try, focus on your Shinigami Ryatsu only. I'm positive that you can heal other hollows with your hollow energy, but I don't think it would be possible with Shinigami."
Ichigo nodded and raised his hand.
His eyes almost jumped out of their sockets, however, when Unohana started to take her robe off.
"You Anohana-san? What are you doing?" he asked, trying to look away. "Oh, didn't I tell you? It's best if you try it while touching the actual skin at first."
"It wouldn't work just with my hand, as you need more surface than a simple hand can offer, since you're a beginner."
"My back should be good enough." She smiled innocently and turned around.
Meanwhile, Ichigo's sweat dropped and gaped at her. He quickly shook his head to clear it, when Unohana pulled her robe down a bit so that her back was visible.
"You can put your hands on my back now, Kurosaki-san," she said, making Ichigo gulp.
With a slight hesitation, he slowly touched her back, feeling her jerk a bit from the contact.
"Whoa, her skin is so soft, Did I just think that?" Ichigo mentally facepalmed and tried to concentrate. "Remember, Kurosaki-san.
Focus on your energy and let it flow to your hands, then slowly will it on my skin in small doses."
She reminded him and waited. "Okay. Easy enough.
I've already did something similar while learning Kido with Hachi." He slowly reached into his Ryatsu reserves in form of the bottomless dam and let a small amount to flow into his palms. When he was sure he had it right, he pushed and willed it into Unohana. His concentration broke when he heard her gasp and shudder a little.
"Are you all right, Anohana-san?" he asked in alarm.
"Why yes, you just used too much of your Ryatsu and it surprised me."
"Try to lessen the amount. Normal officer could get into shock after being exposed to this much." She breathed out and nodded to him. Shit, even this is too much?
Ichigo cursed mentally and furiously tried to cut the flow to his hand into pieces. He allowed only a tiny stream of it into his palms and prepared for his second attempt.
Again he willed his Ryatsu into the captain in front of him.
He almost sighed in relief when he heard no more gasps. Instead he heard a small moan and shook his head exasperatedly.
Why do I have the feeling that this is not a normal reaction? To hell with it, this probably isn't even a proper method of training. I can't imagine Hanataru doing this stuff.
Yes, Kurosaki-san, that's good.
Exactly like this. Unohana mumbled, leaving Ichigo blushing a little. Damn, my imagination is getting more wild every day.
It must be Shirasaki's fault.
He screamed internally and tried to remain focused. After a few more seconds, he felt Unohana move a bit, so he stopped the flow of his Ryatsu and put his hands down.
Okay, Kurosaki-san, this should be enough. You know how much Ryatsu you can use while helping a captain-class fighter. If you want to help somebody weaker, tone down your flow of Ryatsu further. He watched her put her robe back on and frowned when he remembered something.
It's strange, though.
To help a Shinigami, I have to almost completely cut off the flow of my Ryatsu, but when I was doing the similar thing to those Arankars, Harabelle and her Fraction, I was using a lot more hollow energy yet I didn't hurt them. He rubbed his chin in wonder. It's probably because of the nature of hollows, as they are used to absorb energy from others as they devour them. The Arankars are evolved forms of hollows, but their bodies still remember the sensation.
Unohana answered him and turned around to face him again.
She was spurting a little blush on her cheeks and her breathing seemed to be elevated, but Ichigo decided to not pay it any attention.
The less I know, the happier I am. He convinced himself. Now for the second part, Kurosaki-san.
Unohana said and shifted herself to get more comfortable. As you could see, the Ryatsu you were emitting from the palms of your hands didn't have green color. The reason is because you didn't know this most important part. You said it yourself, that you felt something like kindness in my Ryatsu, when I showed you the healing palm. The exact term would be, let me put it this way. To be able to successfully heal somebody, your Ryatsu must be devoid of any ill intents. That's why we, the medics, have to calm ourselves a little before the actual healing, and that we are calm people in general. Your mind must be at total peace, you have to be in total control of your emotions. The only thing that your whole being have to be focused on, is to emit positive emotions, the desire to genuinely help the patient, the need to see the one before you get better.
It's not as easy as it sounds, mind you.
She explained to Ichigo, expecting him to scoff and say that's easy. It was after she glanced at him, she remembered, who exactly was there with her. Ichigo's face showed amazement and respect that made her smile again.
This sounds easy? Are you serious? Acquiring Bankai was easier than this.
I know very well how hard it is to be in complete control of yourself.
So is that the reason why there are ranks even in medical division? I mean, it sounds logical to me, that the higher rank you have as a medic, the more proficient you are in controlling your mind, right? I guess it's about the Ryatsu levels too, but this is the main reason, isn't it? Ichigo was thinking loudly. Unohana widened her eyes in light surprise. Yes, how very insightful of you, Kurosaki-san. It's exactly as you say. The more proficient you are in controlling your emotions and your mind, the higher rank you are. It took me a long time to get where I am now. I hope that one day Isame could take my position, as she has been able to improve herself drastically in a short time and she's only slightly worse in controlling herself than I am myself. She has other flaws, but I trust her skills. I'm very interested, however, in how well you can perform, now that you know what to do, Kurosaki-san. She looked at him expectantly. Ichigo grimaced and looked at his own hands. I don't think I'll impress you, Unohana-san. Since merging with Shirasaki, I'm discovering that my emotions are harder to control than before. Probably because he's my instinct, as he calls it, and it amplifies the things I feel. He felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up to see Unohana looking at him with warm smile. It doesn't matter how well you do, Kurosaki-san. I was just kidding. It would be a great success if you could heal only a small cut.
It takes a great amount of practice to do more. She took out her Zanpakuto and made a small cut on her finger that bled lightly. I want you to focus on everything I said so far and try to close this small wound. Ichigo raised his hands and put them around her bleeding finger. He closed his eyes and concentrated. I know the first step and now I have to add positive emotions, right? His mind started to wander around his happy memories with his mother and with his sisters. Not long after that, the scene shifted to the one with heavy rain falling down on him and with something heavy pushing him down. It was the memory of the day his mother died. He tried to push it away as he already lived through this painful memory many times ever since it happened. He felt, however, slightly dizzy as his vision blurred a little and darkness threatened to overwhelm him. Always the same, huh? Ichigo thought. Every time this particular memory came out, he always blacked out at this point. He always thought that it was because when it really happened in the past, he simply fainted. This time, however, just a short moment before his vision disappeared, he heard an unfamiliar voice. He couldn't understand what was the voice saying, but at the end the voice laughed just as he finally blacked out. Unohana was watching Ichigo's face carefully and felt his reiatsu shifting. When he put his hands around her finger and started to channel his energy, she was sure that he could do some progress. He even managed to change his reiatsu around his hands to a shade of green before it flickered and started to darken. Alarms went off in her head when the color settled on black and she noticed that he was sweating profusely and mumbling incoherently. She quickly grabbed him by the collar and shook him a little. Kurosaki-san, wake up. What's going on? She thought in concern and shook him again. When he didn't respond, she slapped him lightly on the cheek. His eyes flickered and she sighed in relief as he slowly noticed his surroundings. Ugh, what the hell happened? He groaned and held his head in his hands. Unohana watched him, shook his head, and immediately he flinched. What's wrong, Kosaki-san? She was beginning to worry. Nothing like this ever happened while trying to learn medical Kido. My head hurts like crazy. I think I should go and find some vacant bed. He tried to stand up and staggered a little. Unohana quickly helped him by letting him lean on her and walked with him to the main medical room. They found a free bed and Ichigo quickly lied down, groaning again. She quickly raised her hand and examined him with her healing palm, trying to uncover some hidden injury. Her face formed a frown, however, when she found nothing. What happened, Kurosaki-san? She asked quietly. Ichigo let his hands fall down on the blanket under him and sighed. I'm not sure. I was trying to concentrate on my happy feeling, but then my mind shifted to a memory on its own. What was the memory? Unohana asked curiously, for a moment forgetting about courtesy. When my mother died. Ichigo replied evenly, glancing at her. Oh. He rolled on his right and sighed again. If you don't mind, Unohana-san, I think I should sleep it off. I'm very thankful for your help, though. I now know what I should do if I want to help somebody. I'll be back for some more guidance for sure. Unohana nodded, and before her departure, she turned her head slightly. Take your time, Kurosaki-san, and don't rush it. Learning how to heal takes more time than you'd think. If I'm not available, you can ask Isane as I said before. Sleep well. She said and left the room, leaving Ichigo alone with his thoughts. Who the hell was that person in my memory? Ichigo thought, slightly angry before slowly drifting to a sleep. Wake up, Ichigo. It is time to train, time to release the power that has been sleeping till now. Ichigo woke up at the sound of Zangetsu calling out to him. He was feeling rather refreshed, considering the fact that he had a headache before going to sleep. Now. I just woke up. Ichigo whined and stretched himself on the bed. Now, Ichigo, your Shinigami powers are impatient and they want to be finally used. This got Ichigo's attention. What are you talking about? Finally used? He was met with silence and was already forming another question, when the familiar voice stopped him. Later. Go to the training grounds, where you trained with me for Bankai. Ichigo frowned at the tone but listened nevertheless. He got out of the 4th division in a short time and proceeded to flash to the mentioned place. When he got there, he noticed that nobody was here and he sighed in relief. He was hoping that Yoruichi wouldn't be there, as he was somehow sure that his Zanpakuto will beat the crap out of him during their training.
I'm here, Zangetsu. What now?
Instead of answering, man in a black cloak appeared suddenly in front of him with a stern look.
Zangetsu, what's with that look?
Ichigo asked nervously.
Ichigo.
You asked what I was talking about when I mentioned you'll be finally using your Shinigami powers. Zangetsu said, keeping his voice as sharp as his look. Ichigo nodded with a small frown.
Yeah. He watched as Zangetsu looked away and for a moment nobody spoke. I meant that you'll be finally using the powers of your Zanaptu.
Till now, your only attack was Getsuga Tensho, but Ichigo, that's not originally a technique of Zangetsu.
Zangetsu said and watched Ichigo's mouth open in shock. What do you mean?
Getsuga Tensho is a simple attack of gathering your Raisher into the blade and releasing its condensed form in the form of the crescent-shaped energy, and every Zanpakuto of the Getsu type can use it. Even Aizen would be able to do it, if he knew about it, but I guess Kyoka never mentioned it to him. Ichigo tried to say something, but for the second time in this week he couldn't find his voice. You only used your own Raisher to fuel the Getsuga. Yes, you borrowed some power from me before, or from your hollow powers, but it's still a generic attack.
You don't know the true power of Zangetsu.
Since merging with Shirasaki, this power was struggling to get free, so that you would use it.
Zangetsu means slaying moon. Tell me, Ichigo, what do you picture when you think about the moon? Zangetsu asked the silent Ichigo.
When he noticed that no answer was coming out of Ichigo's mouth, he sighed.
The right answer is darkness, Ichigo.
Moon is always surrounded with darkness, as it can only rise in the night.
Indeed, the true power of Zangetsu is the darkness, or rather the flames of the darkness.
The cloak that Zangetsu wore slowly shifted its form and was looking like a black flame surrounding him. Ichigo was speechless. Not even one thought pierced his stunned mind. It was beyond comprehension for him.
Why do you think that the Getsuga in your Bankai was black in color? You thought it was because of Shirasaki? Wrong.
In your current Bankai you used to call upon the true form of your Zanpakuto power. It was forceful and thus your Korwa Getsuga was weaker than the one Shirasaki was able to use. But it was something, even if by small margin, you incorporated your true power into the basic Getsuga, changing it into something new. Of course, you could protest that your Korwa Getsuga had the hollow feel into it, but it's only because you were using it while also unconsciously using your hollow powers.
When Ichigo didn't move, Zangetsu sighed again.
I just hope that he can take what I'm saying to him. Damn you, Zangetsu, you could have waited a little bit longer. Zangetsu cursed, and the only response was a slight grunt from the back of Ichigo's mind. Yes, I know that, but still, I can't say what I am right now. Our agreement must hold a little bit longer. After a few minutes he noticed that Ichigo finally started to show signs of life.
What does this mean? Ichigo asked in absolute confusion. It means that you need to release your Zanpakuto to see its true form, Ichigo. Ichigo blinked and looked at him in disbelief. But how?
I'm already in Shirkai.
Zangetsu only looked at him.
Amuse me, Ichigo, you should know the phrase by now. What or why? Ichigo protested when he heard a whisper from the back of his mind. His eyes widened and he raised his blade.
Set the darkness ablaze, Zangetsu!
He yelled and had to squint his eyes, when a wave of Ryatsu phased through him.
He blinked and looked at his Zanpakuto. He blinked again.
In his hands was the same old huge cleaver he was used to, only with a small but drastic changes. The hilt was now present, the blade has a slight curve at its beginning and its blade was covered in black flames. If he wasn't in such shock, he would have dropped his Zanpakuto in surprise. Instead, he examined it in awe. He looked back at Zangetsu standing in front of him.
It's amazing. It feels different and yet the same at the same time.
I don't know how to describe it, it just feels right. He swung it lightly around himself and noticed that the flames were heating the air around him, but strangely it didn't bother him.
It's your power, of course it can't bother you. Zangetsu voiced Ichigo's thoughts. What it can do. I mean the flames? Ichigo asked in wonder. Well, they can burn.
Ichigo fell comically on the ground.
I know that. He yelled with red face.
The other thing it can do, every person who's being burned by it feels every horrible thing he did in his lifetime. He feels the pain of his victims, their suffering, every little crime is used against him and force him to feel the darkness within him. It has its weaknesses as anything else. Enemy with a will strong enough, or with a mind in absolute control can lessen or almost completely negate its effects, and the darkness can't affect pure beings. The ones who never committed any crime. But in their case, they feel their every dark emotion amplified. And the ones who live in darkness are not affected by it too. Zangetsu said in serious voice. Ichigo shuddered. That's a nasty ability. I can always extinguish the flames on somebody, right? He asked with a frown. He never liked and believed in torturing his enemies. Yes, of course. But how can I release Zangetsu again? I mean, wasn't I in Shirkai till now? Zangetsu thought about it for a moment. You can say that what you've been using till now was an incomplete Shirkai. You never used a real Asachi before, therefore your blade had to be in that incomplete state. He saw Ichigo opening his mouth and quickly put his hand in front of him.
That's nothing you should be concerned about right now. What you should be concerned about is trying to learn its new abilities.
Today, you'll learn two techniques, one for attacking and one for defending.
The first one is called Anjetsu no Ka, or Fire of the Dark Moon.
Its main purpose is to deliver the flames of darkness onto your opponent, dealing injuries and the already mentioned effect of the black flames. To use it, focus your energy into the sword, same as with the Getsuga Tensho, but this time, don't think about your rapier as the simple energy, but as the dark flames, then release it.
Zangetsu explained and motioned Ichigo to try it. The said person nodded and, still in awe at his slightly new Zanpakuto, he did as instructed. Anjetsu no Ka. He yelled and released the attack.
He almost yelped when a huge wave of black Ryatsu emerged from his blade and shot forward, burning everything in its path, leaving scorched ground and roasted boulders after it.
Wow!
Ichigo said, impressed. The magnitude of the attack is slightly bigger than my regular Getsuga, power required is roughly the same, but the area affected is wider.
He thought and turned to Zangetsu. Very good.
You can control the amount of the energy put into it in the same way as with the Getsuga.
The second ability is called Yami no Tsukatate, or Lunar Shield of Darkness.
It creates a black shield in front of you, blocking physical and energy attacks and burning anything it comes in contact with. Very useful ability, especially for someone like you, who likes to jump in every dangerous situation without thinking first. Zangetsu explained the second ability and glanced at Ichigo, who looked down in shame. He rubbed his neck and laughed nervously.
I think I deserve that one.
To use the shield, focus on the energy as the flames, just like with the Anjetsu no Ka, and concentrate it into one small point at the end of the blade and slash down.
Ichigo nodded in understatement and focused on his energy.
It took him a little bit longer this time, as he had some troubles guiding the flames into the one concentrated spot. When he was sure he got the amount right, he slashed down and exclaimed,
Yami no Tsukitate.
And before his very eyes a medium-sized shield, just big enough to cover him, erupted from his blade and positioned itself in front of him, shielding him perfectly.
As expected from you, Ichigo. Now do it again, this time you have to use it faster.
In real battle you don't have that much time to prepare it.
You'll train until you can do it in an instant.
Zangetsu commanded strictly, and a bead of sweat formed on Ichigo's forehead. I'm starting to think that Shirasaki isn't the only one who's merciless.
Shit. I'm betting that he'll be pissed. Yaruchi cursed under her breath as she was flashing towards the Ryatsu of one orange-haired Shinigami.
Few minutes ago, as she was relaxing with Urahara in his shop, an unexpected guest showed up, beaten up and in a bad condition with an even worse message.
I don't envy those bastards who did it.
She shook her head and frowned. When she realized that his Ryatsu signature was originating from the training grounds she and Urahara built.
He's training again?
As she got closer, she noticed that the air was getting warmer every few meters.
What is he doing?
She finally dropped in front of Ichigo, as he was just done with putting his clothes back on. He jumped in surprise when he noticed her.
Yaruchi-san? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? She asked him with a frown.
He almost said that he was training, but he noticed that she was little out of breath.
What's wrong, Yaruchi-san? Why were you rushing here?
His eyes showed concern and she felt a warm feeling in her chest. She bit her lip and shook her head. It's Nell, she showed up just a few moments ago in Kasuke's shop.
Ichigo, she's been beaten quite badly.
Yaruchi said and watched as his warm smile turned into angry frown and the air around him got heavy.
Take me to her.
That wraps up this part of What If Ichigo Awoke His True Powers.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Just a quick reminder, the stories, What If Reborn in Naruto World and What If Transmigrated as Harry Potter, are going on hold soon, as we have almost caught up with the author.
So once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the next project should be on this channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if becoming a mangaka in One Piece world? What if Dragon Deck user in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal?
What if transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader? I will be setting up a poll for this, so please vote in the poll and let me know which 2 stories you'd like to see next on the channel. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.